NEC Section 314.23e addresses the support of luminaires from conduit bodies. Specifically, it states that you cannot support a luminaire from a conduit body, such as an LB fitting that is larger than the trade size of the conduit entering that conduit body. The primary reason for this restriction is to ensure adequate mechanical support for the luminaire. Using a conduit body that is oversized relative to the conduit can compromise its ability to bear the weight of the lighting fixtures safely and reliably. This rule is applicable to conduit bodies with a single entry point, meaning only one conduit enters the body, and also to conduit bodies with multiple entry points. However, for conduit bodies with multiple entries, the rule has a more nuanced application. If a conduit body has several entries, the size restriction only applies to the entry point from which the luminaire is being supported. To illustrate, consider a conduit body with 3 entry points. If a luminaire is being supported from one of these entries, the conduit body used at the particular entry cannot be larger than the trade size of the conduit connected to that entry. The other 2 entries are not subject to the same size restriction and could potentially use conduit bodies that are larger than the trade size of the conduits connected to them, provided they are not being used to support any luminaires. This distinction is important because it allows for flexibility in conduit routing and sizing while still ensuring the safe and proper support of luminaires. In summary, the critical point to remember is that when supporting a luminaire from a conduit body, the size of the conduit body at the point of support must not exceed the trade size of the conduit entering that point. This requirement applies regardless of whether the conduit body has a single or multiple entries. The intent is to prevent the use of excessively large conduit bodies that could compromise the structural integrity of the support system and potentially lead to the luminaire detaching or falling. Always refer to the latest edition of the NEC for the most up-to-date and accurate information regarding these requirements, as codes and standards can change over time. The application of NEC Section 314.23e is intended to prevent unsafe installations where the weight of a luminaire could overstress a conduit body that is inappropriately sized for the conduit entering it. Firstly, let's delve deeper into the implications for single-entry conduit bodies. In these cases, the rule is straightforward. If you're supporting a luminaire from an LB fitting or other conduit body with only one conduit entry, the size of that conduit body cannot exceed the trade size of the conduit entering it. This prevents situations where, for example, a 2-inch conduit body is used with a 1-inch conduit to support a heavy light fixture, creating a potential point of failure. Secondly, consider the scenario of multiple entry conduit bodies. This is where the rule becomes slightly more complex. If the conduit body has more than one entry, the size limitation only applies to the entry point that is actively supporting the luminaire. For instance, if you have a T-conduit body with 3 entries and the luminaire is hung from one of them, only that specific entry is subject to the size restriction. The other 2 entries could potentially use larger conduit bodies if needed for the conduit run, as long as they are not contributing to the support of the luminaire. Thirdly, it is important to understand the definition of support. The NEC doesn't explicitly define this term in the context of 314.23e, but it generally refers to any method of directly attaching the luminaire to the conduit body or using the conduit body as a primary means of holding the weight of the luminaire. This could involve hanging the luminaire directly from the conduit body, using a threaded connection, or employing a handlebar or similar device that relies on the conduit body for support. The intention of this code provision is to ensure that the conduit body at the point of support is adequately sized to handle the load. Fourthly, consider the types of luminaires. The weight and size of the luminaire play a significant role in determining whether the conduit body is appropriately sized. A small, lightweight LED fixture may not pose the same risk as a large, heavy, high bay fixture. Therefore, it's crucial to consider the specific characteristics of the luminaire when evaluating compliance with 314.23. Fifthly, the NEC is a minimum standard. While compliance with 314.23e ensures a basic level of safety, it may be prudent to exceed these requirements in certain situations. For example, if you're installing a heavy luminaire in an area prone to vibration or strong winds, you might consider using a conduit body that is even smaller than the trade size of the conduit to provide additional support and stability. Sixthly, inspection and enforcement. Electrical inspectors are responsible for enforcing the NEC and ensuring that installations comply with its provisions. They will typically examine the conduit body and luminaire installation to verify that the size restrictions of 314.23e are being met. Failure to comply with this code can result in a failed inspection and require corrective action. Seventhly, documentation and labeling. It's good practice to document the luminaire installation, including the size of the conduit body and the trade size of the conduit to demonstrate compliance with 314.23. Additionally, some conduit bodies are labeled with their maximum load capacity, which can be helpful in determining whether they are suitable for supporting a particular luminaire. Eighthly, other support methods. It's important to note that 314.23 only applies when the luminaire is being supported directly from the conduit body. If the luminaire is supported by other means, such as a hanger wire or independent support system, the size restrictions of 314.23 may not apply. However, it's crucial to ensure that the other support methods are adequate and comply with other applicable NEC requirements. Ninthly, consider approved methods. The NEC allows for the use of approved methods for supporting luminaires. These methods may involve the use of specialized fittings, hardware, or installation techniques that have been evaluated and approved by a recognized testing laboratory. When using approved methods, it's essential to follow the manufacturer's instructions and ensure that the installation is performed in accordance with the listing or labeling of the equipment. Tenthly, review relevant definitions. Familiarize yourself with the NEC definitions of terms such as conduit body, luminaire, and support to ensure a clear understanding of the scope and application of 314.23e. These definitions can help clarify any ambiguities or uncertainties regarding the requirements of this code section. In conclusion, Section 314.23e of the National Electrical Code is a critical provision for ensuring the safe and reliable support of luminaires from conduit bodies. By understanding the size restrictions and their application to both single and multiple entry conduit bodies, electrical professionals can avoid potentially hazardous installations and maintain compliance with the NEC. Remember that the NEC is a constantly evolving document, so it's essential to stay up to date on the latest revisions and interpretations to ensure that your installations meet the current requirements. Always consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer if you have any questions or concerns regarding the application of 314.23 or any other NEC requirement. Furthermore, specific applications might require a deeper dive into the nuances of this rule. For instance, consider a scenario where a conduit run is upsized for future expansion. In this case, the conduit entering the conduit body may be smaller than the conduit leaving it. If a luminaire is being supported from this conduit body, the size restriction applies to the conduit entering the conduit body, not the larger conduit leaving it. This ensures that the support is based on the actual conduit size providing the support, not a future potential size. Another important aspect to consider is the type of conduit being used. The NEC recognizes various types of conduit, such as rigid metal conduit, intermediate metal conduit, electrical metallic tubing, and flexible metal conduit. The type of conduit used can affect the overall strength and stability of the support system. When selecting a conduit body for supporting a luminaire, it's important to ensure that it is compatible with the type of conduit being used and that it is listed for the intended application. Furthermore, the environment in which the installation is located can also play a role in determining the appropriate size and type of conduit body to use. For example, in corrosive environments, it may be necessary to use a conduit body made of corrosion-resistant materials, such as stainless steel or PVC-coated steel. In wet locations, it's important to use a conduit body that is listed for wet locations and that is properly sealed to prevent water from entering the enclosure. Another factor to consider is the accessibility of the luminaire and conduit body for maintenance and repair. The NEC requires that electrical equipment be installed in a manner that allows for easy access for inspection, maintenance, and repair. When supporting a luminaire from a conduit body, it's important to ensure that the luminaire and conduit body are readily accessible and that there is sufficient clearance around them to allow for safe and convenient maintenance. In addition to the size restrictions of 314.23e, the NEC also contains other requirements related to the support of luminaires. For example, Section 410.16 specifies the requirements for supporting luminaires in suspended ceilings, while Section 410.36 provides requirements for supporting luminaires from outlet boxes. It's important to be familiar with all of the applicable NEC requirements when installing luminaires to ensure that the installation is safe and compliant. The NEC also addresses the use of flexible cords and cables for connecting luminaires. Section 400.7 specifies the permitted uses of flexible cords and cables, while Section 400.8 lists the prohibited uses. When using flexible cords or cables to connect a luminaire, it's important to ensure that they are properly supported and protected from physical damage. Furthermore, the NEC contains requirements for grounding and bonding electrical equipment. Section 250.4 specifies the general requirements for grounding and bonding, while other sections provide specific requirements for different types of equipment and installations. When installing a luminaire, it's important to ensure that it is properly grounded and bonded to provide a safe path for fault current. Finally, it's important to remember that the NEC is a minimum standard. While compliance with the NEC ensures a basic level of safety, it may be prudent to exceed these requirements in certain situations. For example, if you're installing a heavy luminaire in an area prone to vibration or strong winds, you might consider using a conduit body that is even smaller than the trade size of the conduit to provide additional support and stability. By carefully considering all of these factors and consulting with a qualified electrical professional, you can ensure that your luminaire installations are safe, compliant, and reliable. Always refer to the most recent edition of the National Electrical Code, as well as any applicable local codes or regulations to ensure compliance with all applicable requirements. Electrical codes and standards are continuously updated to reflect new technologies, best practices, and safety concerns. Staying informed about these changes is crucial for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical installations. Engaging in continuous learning and professional development is essential for electrical professionals to maintain their competence and stay up to date on the latest industry standards and best practices. This includes attending training courses, workshops, and seminars, as well as reading industry publications and participating in professional organizations. By staying informed and engaged, electrical professionals can ensure that they are providing the highest quality of service to their clients and contributing to safer and more reliable electrical infrastructure. In addition to the technical aspects of luminaire support, it's also important to consider the aesthetic aspects of the installation. The appearance of the luminaire and its support system can have a significant impact on the overall look and feel of a space. When selecting a conduit body and support method, it's important to choose options that are not only functional but also visually appealing and consistent with the overall design of the space. This may involve selecting conduit bodies with a particular finish or color, or using concealed wiring methods to minimize the visibility of the electrical system. Furthermore, it's important to consider the long-term maintenance and upkeep of the luminaire and its support system. Regular cleaning and inspection are essential for ensuring that the luminaire continues to operate safely and efficiently over time. When selecting a conduit body and support method, it's important to choose options that are durable, easy to clean, and resistant to corrosion and other environmental factors. This will help to minimize the need for repairs and replacements and ensure that the luminaire continues to provide reliable lighting for many years to come. In addition to the NEC, other standards and regulations may also apply to luminaire installations. For example, the Illuminating Engineering Society IES publishes recommended practices for lighting design and installation, which can provide valuable guidance on selecting and installing luminaires to meet specific lighting needs. Additionally, local building codes and regulations may contain specific requirements for luminaire installations, such as restrictions on the types of luminaires that can be used in certain locations or requirements for energy efficiency. It's important to be familiar with all of the applicable standards and regulations when designing and installing luminaire systems to ensure that the installation meets all of the necessary requirements. By taking a holistic approach to luminaire installations, considering not only the technical aspects but also the aesthetic, maintenance, and regulatory aspects, electrical professionals can create lighting systems that are safe, efficient, and visually appealing. This requires a combination of technical expertise, attention to detail, and a commitment to quality and continuous improvement. The use of digital tools and technologies can also enhance the efficiency and accuracy of luminaire installations. For example, computer-aided design CAD software can be used to create detailed plans of the electrical system, including the location of luminaires and conduit runs. Building information modeling BIM software can be used to create a virtual model of the building, which can be used to identify potential conflicts and optimize the design of the electrical system. Mobile apps can be used to access technical information such as NEC code sections and product specifications directly on the job site. By leveraging these digital tools and technologies, electrical professionals can streamline the installation process, reduce errors, and improve the overall quality of their work. Finally, it's important to emphasize the importance of communication and collaboration in luminaire installations. Effective communication between the electrical contractor, the general contractor, the architect, and the building owner is essential for ensuring that the installation meets the needs of all stakeholders. This includes discussing the lighting design, the budget, the schedule, and any potential challenges or concerns. By working together collaboratively, the project team can ensure that the luminaire installation is a success.